So back in 2018, I had my most profitable year as a copywriter ever. And I brought in around about £400,000, which is about $500,000. And I'd love to say that that was down to entirely my work ethic, like I worked a lot harder or I put in extra hours, so I had massive clients, but actually only some of it was to do with that. Because a lot of it had to do with buying this car. So here's the backstory. I'd been writing copy for about 3 years full-time at that point and about 7 years in total. And I had a good network, I'd built up a good client base, I'd worked for some relatively big companies, and I'd had a couple of years making six figures, which it's a bit weird to say it, but that seems to be the arbitrary number that you're supposed to get to in the online world. But online, I was pretty low key. So I posted content, but most of it was sort of jokey. There was no real personal branding there, which was fine. But also to get to the next level, sometimes you need a bit more than that. And so just before Christmas, the current car I had at the time was basically being run into the ground. And I'd been eyeing up a car for a while. I'd always wanted a BMW M4. It was the car that to me was the right combination between power and aggression, but it still looked pretty nice. Don't get me wrong, it's not a supercar, it's not a Ferrari, it's not a Lamborghini, but it's one of those cars that it's a nice daily driver and it looks pretty cool as well. And I got it just before Christmas. I think it was like December the 21st or 22nd. And as you do when you buy a new car, I posted a picture of me standing next to it online. And that post absolutely blew up. Now, obviously, anything like that often does blow up online. Whether it's a picture of a new baby, like an engagement announcement, you just post a picture of your dog. A new car is one of those things that's guaranteed to get people liking and commenting, which is all pretty cool, but it doesn't necessarily mean much. But then a weird thing happened. Over that Christmas, I just seemed to get more inquiries than I'd ever got before. And then through January, it started to pick up again. And it was like this weird snowball effect. All of a sudden, that one picture had triggered this catalyst of people starting to reach out to me. And that in itself gave me more confidence. I started to up my fees. I started having to have a waiting list because there were people who wanted to work with me who I literally couldn't take on because I was too busy. And a lot of people who signed up also mentioned the car when they signed up with me. They're like, oh, how's the new car doing? Or, oh, I love the color of it. Everyone goes for black or white. You've gone with something a bit different. And whilst we can't draw absolute conclusions from it, I looked at it and thought, do you know what? I think that has been a bit of a catalyst. And what it probably was it was a bit of an authority signal. And as cliched as the whole stand next to a nice car thing to win business is, it also tends to actually play out. And that whole year, business just kind of kept going like that. It was this sort of knock-on effect that it was the early rush of business, followed by a bit more confidence from me, followed by a bit more of a rush of business, a bit more confidence, a bit more of a rush. It just kind of went over and over and over. And that resulted in that year massively out earning anything I'd done before and hitting that $500,000. And what's weird is that before this, I was creating content that I thought showcased that I knew what I was doing and I was an expert and all that kind of stuff. But I think the car really showed them. And this all sounds really shallow. I'm very, very aware of that. But it's one of those things where it just shows how the human brain works. It's why, to use the car as an example again, when you see someone with a nice car, you automatically have a reaction. You might think they're a wanker or they're a prick, which they may well be. That's totally fine to have that reaction. But you also probably think, well, they must do something where they've got some status or some authority. Whether it's that, whether it's seeing someone with a full set of Louis Vuitton luggage, whether it's seeing someone wearing a Rolex, someone even living in a nice house, right? It's that kind of thing where you see it and your brain jumps to, that person must be good at what they do. They must earn good money. And when we know someone earns good money, again, it's another shortcut, but we think, okay, maybe they're someone I want to spend money with because other people are spending money with them too. So rightly or wrongly, people assume that just by you having something, you are actually good at what you do. The thing with all this though is it still has to be on brand. So we are in an age right now where I would say we have an influx of fake experts. It's never been easier to fake that lifestyle online. I saw this firsthand in Bali actually, and it's really weird. Like, I didn't like a lot of it, but it was massively an influencer culture. So you would go to a cafe, for example, and you would see people order 3, 4, even 5 dishes just for themselves. They would take a photo of all of them, take a bite of each of them, and then leave. And it was also they could post it on Instagram to show off. It was so cheap out there that people feel like they can live like kings or queens, and they post it online, and it gives them this kind of weird expert status. We've also got people who would do things like they'll hire the fake private jets to have photo shoots in and then post them on Instagram. And I'm not advocating doing any of that at all, because a lot of this still has to be on brand and it still has to align with your values. So what you want to do is try and balance your natural personality with status symbols that mean something to you and that mean something to your audience. So for example, some people do this really well with things like travel. They will happily spend their disposable income flying all over the world, and they'll post pictures of it. They'll showcase their hotels, their flights, the activities they do. And it doesn't even have to be super expensive stuff. I'm not talking about this has to be a business class flight or it has to be a 5-star hotel. They just showcase their lifestyle, and to their audience, that's a really good status symbol. What does our brain think here? The brain thinks, right, okay, this person's got the money to travel. They've got the freedom and flexibility to travel. Therefore, their job, their career, their business must be providing them the means to do that. So I can trust them to do what I want them to do, to do the work, to write the copy, to run my ads, whatever it is, right? You can also do things like events. If you love going to gigs, that's another one as well. People think the same things, right? If you are living a life or you're buying things that are aspirational to your audience, this will have the same effect. So it doesn't have to be the stuff that shows you being flashy. It might be. And yeah, some people do have audiences who like that. So you might know, for example, your audience really aspires to have branded clothes all the time. And that's totally fine. As long as you want to spend your money on that as well, I would say do that and then post it online. Obviously, there's a right way and a wrong way to do this as well. It's not like we want to become an influencer and only post pictures of the shit you buy, because that's just cringy. But weave it into your content. You can write lessons about, what you learned from, well, like I'm doing here, from buying a car, how it helped my business, that kind of thing, right? But you can do it in a way that's very natural and authentic to you. Because the point isn't necessarily to just flash the cash, it's to show that you're someone who has options. So I do genuinely love cars. Like, I wouldn't just buy a car to improve my business, but I also know that my audience likes cars too. So why would I not use that to my advantage to help me improve my business? And my big thing here is don't go broke trying to make yourself look rich. That's a lesson that my fiance Victoria has taught me. She's an investment manager, and that's one of her big things, right? There's a really good book as well called The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, where he goes into that. And it's like, buy stuff that actually makes you happy, not stuff that you think will make other people think a certain thing about you. So as I said, don't just go buying shit because you think it's going to impress people. Buy it because you want to buy it, but then don't be afraid to showcase it online. So work out what kind of stuff actually matters to you, whether it is like the cars, it's the clothes, whether it's the holidays, even just doing stuff with your family. But the more you can show you're someone who's got options, someone who's financially secure, even someone who just can prioritize doing the stuff they enjoy over work, if you show your audience that, it gives them so much more confidence in you, and that in turn helps to grow your business. So ultimately, this is about buying what you would want to anyway, because it makes you happy, and then showcasing it online. A lot of people try and hide this stuff away because they think it's bragging or it's showing off, but it's all about how you present it. If you do it in a way that's natural and that's authentic, it can only really help.